Hi guys, Vinny here, and we're doing part 2 of salve making. So we're going to start with our nighttime salve. Now these jars have been sitting in this bath of hot water for a little over 24 hours because I just did not have time to get to this at noon today, and that's okay because they're just infusing more. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to filter the herb particulate out of the oil because the herbs can cause spoilage, and we don't want that because they can still contain some moisture in there, even though we left them open all night, and we don't want that. So even though these jars are the same size and it's the same stuff, we're going to do it in 2 separate batches just because it will be a little bit easier. I'm going to wipe the herbs that are still in here out of the bottom of this jar because we don't want that in there. There's one. Okay, it's being a little difficult. Alright. Okay. Good enough. Alright, so now we're going to take our scale and our lanolin. Now this is fat from sheep wool, and it's really good for your skin. It's especially good for your face and also your beard. So if you have a beard and you're interested in this, I would highly recommend including some lanolin in here. So I'm going to do about an ounce, I think. We're going to see what that looks like. Last year when I bought the lanolin, it was in a 1 ounce jar, so I didn't really have a whole lot of choice. So this is about 1.5 ounces. So I'm actually going to put in 2 because I really like the way this makes my skin feel. So there we go, 2 ounces of the lanolin, and then we are going to return the oil after we've squeezed the herbs out into here, along with the beeswax, and then we're going to put that back in the crock pot until it all melts together. You want to squeeze this out because you're getting a lot of the thicker part of the herb, for lack of a better word. So like if you get really good like extra virgin olive oil, you'll notice a little bit of sediment on the bottom, and that's a good part of the extraction, and we're doing kind of the same thing here with these herbs, which is why we're squeezing them. I'm going to get the last bit of the oil extraction out, and you can do this through a paper towel as well if you don't have a fine enough sieve. The only thing with the paper towel is it rips, and then you have to start all over again. At least that's what happens to me, which is why I do it this way. Okay, so once you've gotten pretty much all that you can out of your herbs, you're going to discard them. So these can go in your compost bin, or you can use them for stock or something. I'm going to reserve them in the sink for later. I'm going to put them off to the side. So while I give my hands a quick rinse, because we have to do this 4 more times, I don't want to get all over everything. Because remember, those are infused in coconut oil and olive oil. Because those are the carrier oils that I like. But you can certainly use others if you prefer. Now we're going to get the oil back into the jar. We're going to use a funnel because we don't want to spill any of this if we can help it. Beautiful. Okay. I'm going to grab a spatula real quick just to catch the lip. Alright, so that's 1. Now we're going to do that 3 more times. So because this is a narrow mouth jar instead of a wide mouth, my hand is not going to fit in here. so I'm going to rinse it out in the sink because I don't have a choice. But obviously, if you could just use a paper towel and put your hand in, it's better, I think, because it keeps more of the oil in the jar, but, you know, needs must. Okay, so we're going to do another 2 ounces of lanolin because this is a large jar. We're going to do 1 ounce for the smaller jar. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Here's another reason we don't want to rinse it out, because the water is not good for the salve. As I said earlier, water causes mold to grow, and the last thing you want when you're making cosmetics or salve or any sort of ointment is for it to be filled with mold. So we're going to use the back of a spoon and a paper towel to get the water out. This is very important because the bottom especially can get is where the water gets trapped, because the salve is oil and oil is lighter than water, so the oil will solidify on top and the water will be underneath, and it will be very hard to get it out once it's in the jar. Alright, so that's about 1.5 ounces. You want another 1/2 ounce. There we go, 2 ounces of lanolin, beeswax, and then we're going to squeeze out the herbs just like we did before. The yarrow, chamomile, common plantain, mugwort, and elderflower, and the elderberry leaves, not elderflower, excuse me. And then the ale hoof as well. Most importantly, though, is the mugwort, because this is first and foremost a sleep salve, so there's more mugwort in here than anything else. Alright, so now we've kind of squeezed the life out of these herbs. We're going to put them back in the sink with the other ones. Just rinse my hands real quick. In a perfect world, you do this outside. There's something nice about making herbal medicine, like under the stars, and you don't have to worry about spilling any of the ingredients, because they're all natural and from the earth, so they can go back to the earth very easily. So now this is going to get funneled back in. Let's hope I'm as lucky as I was last time. Good. So now that the oil has been returned to the jar, this one can go back in the crock pot. And we have the other two. So we're going to do the jewelweed main next. So now this one, as you may remember from part 1, is for insect bites or poison ivy, poison oak. Jewelweed is very good at removing the itch from things, which is why it's a great plant to know. It can be used fresh out in the field if you are in dire need, which does happen, especially if you get poison ivy and you just got to scratch that itch. Don't find some jewelweed, crack open the stem, and squeeze the juice or the liquid out of the stem and kind of smear it on the afflicted area, and that will help a lot. Okay, we want to get the plant particulate off of the spoon really quick. And there's still a little bit. So this time we're only going to use 1 ounce of lanolin because it's a smaller jar. I don't put this on as large a portion of my body every day, or even every day, because in the wintertime I find I don't really get mosquito bites or bug bites or poison ivy because those things are dormant. So there's 1 ounce of the lanolin, the beeswax. Now we're going to squeeze out our herbs just like we did before. Now the jewelweed stems are hollow, so if you don't chop them completely, make sure you squeeze them out really, really well, because they hold a lot of oil, and as I said earlier, this mark, I believe it's called, is this like herb infused solid bits, has a lot of the best parts at the end when you squeeze them out by hand. So this is a really important step. Don't rush through it. Make sure you do it justice. And when you're done, you'll know because there'll be sediment at the bottom of the bowl. So I'm going to rinse my hand off again really quickly. And we're going to pour this back in here just like we did with the other ones. Now, this last one is only a half size because we're just trying something for my aunt, as I said earlier. So I want to make sure that I don't contaminate this one with any of the other herbs, because this is just alehoof and elderberry. So we're going to give the sieve a really good wash with the soap to get the residual oil from any of the other herbs on here off. In a perfect world, you'd use a completely different sieve, but this is the only one I have. Try and beat the water out from in between the little sieve holes. We're going to strain this really quickly. Come on. Just squeezing the last batch. I'm using my other hand because I used my left hand for all the other ones, and your hands will absorb oil from herbs regardless of how well you wash them. At least that's how I feel. I don't know if it's true. Okay. So that's done. And we're going to scoop the lanolin. We're only going to do a ½ ounce this time because this is a half of a small jar. Unfortunately, this one spilled a little bit, but you know what? Mistakes happen. What are you going to do? Beeswax. And so now we will leave these jars in the bath of hot water on the crock pot. So this is on high right now. And you're just going to leave it in here until the wax has melted, and then give it a good stir to combine all of the different fats in there so that it doesn't separate once it cools down. And then you'll place it in your final containers. Stop.